Okay, let's go into the next discussion now. A meeting on Monday between the Academic Staff Union of Universities and the Ministry of Education ended on an inconclusive note.
Well, the meeting, which lasted for over 3 hours behind closed doors, was adjourned till a later date. Now, the union has been on strike since November the 4th and over the federal government's inability to honor a 2009 Memorandum of Understanding reached with the union. But that has actually gone on to be an issue over the Memorandum
of Action.
All right, we have in the studio the chairperson of ASUU, the LASU branch, Dr. Isaac Oyewumi. Good morning and thanks for joining us.
Good morning for having me.
Okay, so what do we make of this ASUU FG meeting that still failed to reach any middle ground on Monday? I mean, it looks like the students are going to be out of the classroom for a long time to come. Or is there any hope, you know, in the horizon?
Well, it's scary, but to be truthful to oneself, it appears that the strike is likely going to linger. From the experience of the meeting of Monday, where you have the Minister of Education owing up to 60% of the conditions that led to the strike, leaving the 40% remaining to God knows who. And from the picture of that meeting, you discover it's not the full-blown meeting expected to drive the strike away to the point of resumption. So where we are is that government is not approaching the issue holistically. It's this piecemeal interest of one ministry to the other. The Minister of Labour is not around, just as we have learned from the insurgency. He cannot be cared for by our health care facility. So we are at a point at which we are always ready to meet with whatever interest. That was why you have the contingent of ASUU meeting with the Minister of Education in the first instance. So the real statutory meetings that will have all units of the government functionaries in attendance is yet to be put together for us to meet, to iron these issues out, and then move forward from there.
All right. The Monday meeting was not the first meeting that was called. There was a first meeting called on the 15th of November, and then this one. And, okay, I'm hearing that we have the national president of the Academic Staff Union of Universities joining us, Professor Biodun Ogunyemi, joining us from our Abuja studio. Let me go to you on this, ASUU president. Thanks for joining us right now, Professor Ogunyemi. I have to direct this question to you now. About 2 meetings have been held between ASUU and government, and still a conclusion was not reached. You led the ASUU to the meeting with the government, and then you came out to say that, well, there's going to be another meeting at a later date. Would you say that for the meetings, the 2 meetings or 2 major meetings held so far, even though conclusions couldn't be reached, but was there progress made from the meetings that you had with the government?
Thank you. Good morning, Nigerians. Thank you for having me. I can say that the 2 meetings we have held so far, we have not made so much progress. If anything has happened, we have only presented all the issues, and we are expecting government to come forward with what they plan to do on the issues we have raised, and that is where we are.
All right, let me remain with you, Professor Ogunyemi. What exactly has government been saying on its part? We know that Adamu, the Minister for Education, was the one you had the meeting on Monday with. What is it that they put forward or put on the table for you that's still unacceptable?
Let me be frank with Nigerians. So far, what we have been talking about is the role of Dr. Wali Babalaki on the issues we have with negotiation. Our negotiation broke down because Dr. Wali Babalaki came up with some proposals that are unacceptable to ASUU. Dr. Wale Babalaki has gone to town to say that ASUU was talking about tuition fees, while they did not talk about tuition fees. We have shown government the evidence, a paper presented by Dr. Wale Babalaki, where he states that every student in Nigerian public and private university will take a loan of 1,700,000 will be paid to universities as tuition fees annually. We think that is going to shut the doors of our universities against children of the poor. But it appears government is reluctant to address that concrete issue because that led to our loss of confidence in Dr. Wale Babalaki. We believe that Dr. Wale Babalaki was pursuing the agenda of the private sector, an agenda that would take us to commercialization and privatization of education. Nigerians have seen much of the antics of those who call themselves private investors in education. They price education out of the reach of the children of the poor, and they make sure that there are class provision of education. And that is what private education means for Nigerians. And Nigerians should be conscious, should be wary of this attempt to further stratify the Nigerian society to the point that the children of the poor will have a separate education as we have in the primary and secondary levels at the level of university. The special education they provide in the private sector, they are not affordable to the children of the poor. And the consistent neglect of public universities in Nigeria portends serious danger for the future of Nigeria. And that is what we want Nigerian government to address, and address very urgently. Our calling for this revitalization fund is meant to address this matter. We believe that government has what it takes to revitalize public education, provide accessible and affordable education to Nigerian children. But it appears government is dodging this matter.
If I may comment, Professor Ogunyemi,
Dr. Wale Babalaki.
Yes, the Wale Babalaki issue. I mean, I'm wondering, is your issue really with Wale Babalaki, or what exactly he's bringing to the table? Because he has said that he believes, as well as governments that he represents, that Nigerians deserve quality education, and that he has never said anything about hike in school fees, which is what ASUU has been quarreling with too, alongside other issues. So you both seem to be on the same page as far as quality of education is concerned, aren't you?
No, we are not, because of the perspective Babalaki is bringing into it. Our own approach to quality education is education that will be affordable. Its own quality of education is the class type. The one that will only be affordable by children of the rich. So we are saying, why our problem with Babalaki really is that negotiation that has been stalled because of his antics. That is where we sort out all the major issues. But beyond the issue of negotiation, we have outstanding issues that are pending on our Memorandum of Action of 2017. Revitalization Fund is one of them, where government needs to address the issue of 1.1 trillion. We have presented a position paper where we showed ways where government can generate the fund and come up with timeline to release the fund to universities. We have the issue of forensic audit, which they promised to release within 6 months. More than 1 year after, government has not released it. It is that forensic audit of the EAA and academic allowances of our members that is delaying the payment of the outstanding balance. So government needs to address that urgently. But it appears government is not talking along that line. We have the issue of shortfall. Our members were paid fractions of their salaries for more than 1 year, and we have brought out these facts and figures, and government plans to address the issue. A year after, government has not addressed the issue. So when you put those issues affecting the federal government with those ones that relate to state universities, you will see that we have a bag full of issues that both federal and state governments need to address. In state universities, you can see governors proliferating universities. Those who have not funded one university are going ahead to establish the second and third universities. They want to take us to the level of 2 primary and secondary schools in their states too.
All right,
Such
Professor.
that today,
all right,
we
Professor.
have
Yeah.
some funds there that government has, state governors have refused to access.
All right, Professor, let me put you on hold a little
until
bit.
they go along this path, we'll continue to have problems.
All right, Professor, we'll come back to you. Let me bring in Dr. Oyewumi in here. The issue of funding has really featured prominently in this argument between ASUU and government, one way or the other. And the government has continually said that it cannot continue to totally and wholly fund education in the country. They've talked about the issue of state governments and even local governments going into funding one way or the other, and an arrangement can be made and so on. But from the point of perspective of ASUU, it seems they too have agreed that actually government may not be able to. But what are the new ways that ASUU thinks or feels that they have to bring up new strategies on funding education where it cannot be relied, or they cannot rely, or education cannot totally rely on government alone going forward?
Thank you. ASUU is not in agreement with government regarding the fact that government alone cannot fund education in Nigeria.
Okay.
What ASUU is saying is that Nigeria is blessed above average capacity to fund education meaningfully up to university level in this country.
So ASUU does not have any alternative means of funding apart from government?
We do not for now, because the weight of this country is there, just being cornered and being wasted by the ruling elite to satisfy their interest and that of their cronies. For instance, NNPC is not linked to the national purse of this nation. You don't know how much it earns, and it's not accountable to anybody. So we have said all this much to people who are in government who tends not to be ready to listen. So not until we get to a point at which we see that the will of the people should not be tested beyond a particular point. What we are saying is that the ruling elite should realize the fact that we need a welfarist state to bail out the world poverty capital away from the path of these neoliberal tendencies they are driving us. At the end of the day, it won't pay anybody. So what ASUU is saying is that Nigeria is blessed, if I may repeat myself in another parlance. Sir, as we are seated, it's on record, we have 44 mineral resources, natural resources deposited in Nigeria, being affected at different levels. 1 or 2 by some other nations is what they need, and you have everything. So the system of government we run is the I don't care system. Doesn't bother about people's welfare. Somebody just spoke about counterinsurgency. Those who are assigned the oversight function of these ministries and units knows next to nothing about it. Even when they are appointed, if you do not know, but you are reliably educated to be able to function in any administrative capacity, you go to people who know, and they will guide you. So the way the educational system in Nigeria is being run is haphazard. They are not interested. You have them training their children and wards outside for them to come back and lord it over us because we have been badly baked.
Well, would you say that this relation, this face-off between ASUU and the government, from the point you have raised now, it seemed to be based on some level of suspicion of one party against the other? Because if we talk about the issue of endowment, certainly we all know that Nigeria is so endowed, but the concept of translating all of that into wealth and prosperity for Nigerians is going to take a very long time. It's a long-term project. Would you say that maybe ASUU is not looking at the realities on ground right now, where we know that we have challenges? If government decide to work harder, we're supposed to earn or become even more prosperous. Yes, but from the standpoint where we are right now, ASUU is a collection of intellectuals, like you even have said before. So you should even know better when it comes to that.
So the reality is that we should look at what we are discussing in terms of cause and effect. Just one of these individuals, if I go with the name mentioned by the comrade president of ASUU, Dr. Wale Babalaki, is a creditor to the Nigerian state into billions of naira. And when you asked what is it that they trade in, it is still the same commonwealth of Nigerians. If we say
but
that
is that relevant to the issue?
I am trying to build a point to show that over 50 years of nationhood, we are saying that we have not gotten enough to care for one out of several sectors that would drive the destiny of this country to the point at which each and every one of us will feel cared for as citizens. The point to be made, sir, is that the will is not in the ruling elite. Yesteryears, the one there now, and those who are coming after them. So we need to drive the point home that what we are saying is that there are philosophies of governance, which is the one that the ruling elite of Nigeria now is practicing.
Okay, so to Professor Biodun Guyemi now, the issues really are more fundamental than ASUU challenges or the challenges in the health sector and every other sector that you might even want to talk about. I mean, there is labor on the one hand that's crying for, higher minimum wage, and incidentally, South Africa has just raised its minimum wage from 97,000 naira by naira standards to about 126,000 naira. So the question then is, how can ASUU, alongside all other stakeholders who have been observing the quality of governance since 50 years that Mr. Oyewumi has just said, to actually face it where it should be faced, which is the fundamental issue of misgovernance or lack of it, if you like, because it looks like what ASUU is fighting is just the symptoms of a deeper ailment.
Well, thank you very much. We know that government recently claimed to have declared a state of emergency on education. If they are declaring state of emergency on education, it tallies with what we have been saying. Now you need to fix our education in order to fix other sectors, political, economic, socio-cultural. Before you can address all of those, you must have a good quality of education. As for funding, we have suggested ways apart from these other sources that my colleague there identified. We know, for instance, that if government can fix our universities, Nigerian universities can become money spinners for funding education in general. For instance, the issue of consultancy, it has always been part of our recommendations. All these consultancy services they give out. As you will recall, the case of our colleagues in UNIMED, who were consulting for NNPC. If we have the facilities, we can take other consultancy services that are farmed out to local and foreign agencies that will attract additional funding to our universities. But we need to have requisite facilities. We need to have requisite equipment. We need to have the capacity to do these things. And that is why we are saying under the state of emergency, Nigerian education should be given the priority. The other source which people talk about is the issue of tuition fee. We reject tuition fee because we are aware that close to 60% of Nigerians are poor. If we talk of making Nigerian children to pay tuition fees, you will further shut the door against the children of the poor, as we have now. As we have now, there are universities where students pay as much as 60,000, 70,000 as acceptance fees. So you cannot say students are not paying tuition already. If you are admitting a student and you ask that student to go and pay 60,000 to accept the admission, you have already charged tuition. There are places where they charge as much as 50, 70,000 for accommodation. Our hostels have been privatized in many of the campuses. Ordinary service charges have been taken beyond the reach of the children of the poor. So the parents are already taxed. They are levied. There is poverty. So what we need to do is to think of innovative ways. We can attract alumni. Alumni will contribute. We can build our facilities to empower us as we have in other climes. In other places, we have what we call triple helix. Triple helix means government, industries, and the universities will come together, and they will establish research centers that will be funded through private sectors, and those inventions will give us the innovations that we need, that will give us the patent that will attract additional funds into our system. But before we can do all those, we must first equip our universities. We must have a base for our productivity. We must have the capacity to do our work and deliver on our mandate.
All right, Professor, let me stay with you.
That is where we can make meaningful impact.
Yes, let me stay with you. It is said that he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. You just reeled out some of the things going on in some of the universities now. Like some universities charge up to about 70,000 naira for accommodation here and there. You and I know that certainly that is not even acceptable by the standard of law. There are issues of acceptance fee here and there, some ranging from 40, 50, 60,000, depending on the university. ASUU hasn't really come against all of those, or if you do, you have not really made it known that all of these charges, extra charges from within the university are unethical. Government is not the one making all those charges. So when you're talking about the prosperity of Nigeria and the endowment of Nigeria and how Nigeria is supposed to benefit from the wealth it has, how about within the system, each unethical conduct within the university system? How do you address that?
Who are those committing this unethical conduct? They are the administrators appointed by government. And they are forced to do that because government does not give them the quantum of resources they need. There are universities where they run generator almost throughout the month. The basic infrastructures are not in place. The roads are poor. The water supply is non-existent. And so they have to run universities. And that is why they are cutting corners to do all of this. So part of the campaign we are mounting is that we need to stop all of this by injecting this massive fund we are talking about, 1.1 trillion, as we calculated with government. We'll do a lot of transformation on our campuses. We have seen sample of that with the Needs Assessment Intervention Fund in the last 3-4 years. We can do that, and we can take our university out of this logjam of underfunding, of lack of capacity, and lack of progress.
Okay, let me bring it back to our guest in the studio here, Isaac Oyewumi, finally, before we round off. The issue of autonomy of universities, would that be a good place to actually start from? You know, for this thinking out of the box, you know, that has been said about, the, you know, what is required for ASUU and the university system as a whole for it to begin to function the way it should?
Well, we should not mix the meaning and import of university autonomy with funding. University autonomy has to do with the day-to-day running of the administration of university.
Yeah, but is it not all inclusive, including sourcing for
university autonomy infers on, as I've just said, the administrative process. Funding of the university is in different shapes. University is a universal concept that we all know. And so what it entails when you talk of autonomy is that external influence should be minimal. And that is where we have the town and the gown. In the ideal settings and climes, it is the gown that guides the town. But what we found in our experience is that it is the town that lords it over the gown now. So
the town means government or society?
The government and society. Okay. Just as the president has said, when government fails to do what it ought to do, for instance, you have a state very close by, a neighboring state of Lagos State, now has licensed the third university. You have the first two. One, you give 30, I think for now, 40 million naira monthly as subvention. And that university pays overhead of about 185 million. The other one, you give 70 million subvention monthly, and she pays 312 million.
So there's a huge
So they
gap.
will need to think out of the box to source for fund. That's why you have very high charges of all form of charges, whether it
and
is
all
for
these charges still don't solve the problem.
Do not even get to half of the way for that university to run. Autonomy in itself is talking about the unique administrative procedure of the university that allow ideas to thrive on a healthy competitive level and not the bureaucrats of things that we have in ministries and agencies.
Just as the university has been described as the ivory tower, as it's supposed to be a reflection of how society
it's ideas
should
there
be
that thrive and not the trade-offs.
All right, Dr. Isaac Yomi, thank you so much for coming. ASUU LASU, you're from Lagos State University, ASUU. Thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure.
And we also thank the president of ASUU joining us from Abuja, Professor Abiodun Ogunyemi. Thank you so much for spending your time with us.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. We wish, because the students are the ones who are the receiving end.
No, of course,
we hope
students
that,
and parents.
very soon we can actually go past this, place so that the students can get back to the classroom. But before we go, we'd like to tell you that the views and reactions of our guests on the show this morning are their views and have no connection with TVC News.
All right, we thank you so much. Have a great day ahead. Tomorrow, we'll be back again with other issues that concern you, Nigeria, Africa, and the world. I am Mike Okwache.
And I'm Ngozi Alebu. See you again tomorrow.